All right, we will. And now math is doing me funny again here. There, now there's 5. Okay, 5 at the dais. We will call this meeting to order. Call the roll, please.
Here.
Councilmember Smith,
Here.
Councilmember Fitzgerald,
Here.
Councilmember Alvarez, she was here, so I'm sure she'll be back. Councilmember Clark is absent. Councilmember Stokes,
Here.
Councilmember Todd.
Here.
All right, and then for this evening's meeting, I'm going to ask that you all join me in a moment of silence. Tomorrow, July 19th, is the 1-year anniversary of the senseless death of Officer Daniel Vasquez. So please join me now in a moment of silence to Officer Daniel Vasquez and his ultimate sacrifice. Thank you. Next item is Pledge of Allegiance. This evening will be led by Councilmember Saper. Next item, the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item, we have resolution appreciation for Judge Stephen Fuller, who ended his almost 30-year span as being judge. This Monday was his first time not being in court, right? So thank you to Judge Fuller for 30 years of service to the community. Next item, comments from the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak this evening, please step up to the mic. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Liz Ryan, 2417 Erie. Jesse, I want to thank you for what you talked about the water bill. And I just wanted to make a comment with some of the seniors. The last 2 increases, their Social Security didn't go up much at all. This time they did, and that's their concern. So if we find out about the water bill, like say base is $55, and then it's going to go up to, if we can kind of relate that to them, I think it would be great, because think about their Social Security checking how to budget. And then I have a question about the recycle. When the gentleman was here, he said something about not putting the tops on the lids on the bottles, plastic bottles. And I just we had a function at church, I put tons of lids in there, and I was feeling bad. Well, this thing come out in the, whatever came out, the newsletter?
Quarterly, yeah.
Quarterly, and it says you can put the lids on.
Yeah, I had that same question.
So, which can we do?
Oh, usually we don't do a lot of back and forth this moment. I'm sure we can tackle that one maybe during staff comments as well if they have an answer.
Okay,
know what
I
we're
just
referring
wondered
to.
because.
Tops
did
on or
anybody
tops
else-
off?
Did
I don't know.
anybody else find the same thing? Because Zach Clevenger asked him, and he said no lids on the bottles. But then when I read that on the bottles of your plastic drinks, like it's Gatorade or whatever, it says put the cap on. So I'm kind of confused.
Well,
But that don't take a lot, does it?
you've gotten me there as well, so we will.
Okay, and another
Yeah.
thing, when the storm hit Friday night, I took a nap, and then all of a sudden I looked down and I saw this huge tree limb. And 20 minutes later, they were out cleaning up. Phenomenal. I just cannot thank the street and Public Works enough for the great job they did and how quick they done it. That's all I have.
Thank you for coming this evening. Next public comment. Good evening.
Hi, my name is Carol Broadway. I'm at 833 East 24th Avenue. I was here about a month or 2 ago talking about the golf carts. So I did some research. I called neighboring towns, talked to the police chief at Parkville, the Kearney Police, Liberty Police, and Oak Ridge Country Club, because they have golf carts there. And the consensus is that not one of those police departments has had any reports of accidents between golf carts and people or automobiles. So I thought maybe that might be helpful to you when you're making your decision to vote for or against golf carts. And the other thing was that I didn't mention before was that when I was living in Parkville and I had a golf cart, they do charge, I think it was something like $43 for a, it's not a license, but it's a permit to be able to, and it has to be on the back of your golf cart, so that's another source of income if anybody was, concerned about that. And I also had insurance through my automobile insurance. So looks to me like it should be a go. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Further public comments? Seeing none, move on to item number 7, which is fiscal year 2024 initial proposed budget overview, which will go to Mike.
Yes.
Please.
Mayor and members of the council, it's a good time of year for us. At least I know the three of us, but it's my pleasure to kick off the presentation of the fiscal year 2024 proposed budget. I will say, as mentioned in the memo tonight's an overview, kind of starting the process. Nick will go through the book, the schedule, and all that. But I do want to, kind of get out there, especially the budget team, the department heads, and their staff. How much time was allotted to putting this together? Nick and Kim, Mallory and Jamie, our intern. But again, the department head, staff, everybody puts a lot of time into this. It's like I said, we love the budget, so this is a fun time of year. But as mentioned in the transmittal letter, the budget was crafted kind of as a bridge year. That we're transitioning for Parks and Rec to that sales tax. There's some items underway right now, the stormwater, all the utility studies that kind of present some unknowns for next year's budget. But then also the ever-changing, we have challenges economically, but we also have some opportunities economic, with North Kansas City that have all been taken into account. Just some things that we wanted to get out front. But again, it's one of our favorite times. But I'm going to pass it over to Nick to kind of step through, especially for those of you that are newer on the council, kind of go through the book and overview and what the process will be this year.
I've heard it described a lot of different ways. Usually fun, isn't it?
Yeah,
Except that maybe Kim. I think Kim has done that before.
puts the fun in fun.
Nick, please.
Yeah, not so much fun, but fund, and fund balance is what we like to say. So thank you to Mike for the overview on the budget. This is the third year that we have presented the budget in a digital format. We've partnered with ClearGov to put this in a more online, interactive, friendly way. And as always, we look towards making improvements each year with how we present the budget to you and with the public as well. So I'll talk about some of the next steps, one of them being a newer thing that we'll be doing this year to try and increase engagement with the budget process. But as Mike said, we've definitely taken the current economic conditions as we put together this budget. One of the things that we do that not a lot of other cities do is that we are pretty conservative on our revenue outlooks, and that is, again, reflected in this budget. We have increased some of our revenues, specifically sales tax, reflecting a higher base that we've collected over the last couple of years, but even there, we're still, I'd say, pretty conservative and budgeting under what we've actually collected in prior years. On the expenditure side, inflation has been a big topic. Normally, it's personnel that drives the increases on the general fund, at least. This year, actually, it was some of our supplies, professional services that have increased significantly. And, this year specifically, we've had a lot of budget amendments for vehicle equipment, different contractual services that we've had, supplies. So this budget kind of continues on that trend, assuming that we'll still see some inflationary things, but, time will tell with how that will all play out. There are also some projects and things that have carried forward. One of the, big things that you'll see here is we've got a lot in the capital improvement side. There's a lot of equipment and things that we may order this year and we may not see it for 2 years. So that's presented some additional challenges from a budgetary standpoint and from a cash flow management standpoint. Some of our larger equipment purchases are, in some cases, 3 to 4 years out before we would actually receive it, even if we placed the order today. So you'll see some of those things in the budget. A lot of what is in here is familiar, but I did want to highlight a couple of things, as tonight is just going to be a very high-level overview, walking through the budget book so you can get familiar with that, and then our in-depth discussions will start really at the August 15th meeting, where the departments will come in and talk about both their capital and operating budgets. In the meantime, we will take any questions. One of the things that we want to do this year is, as those questions come up, we're going to collect them, we're going to get responses out, and we're going to send those to you as part of the agenda, as well as put those online so that anyone who's interested in the budget process can see where we're at any given time. So I will start just kind of going through the budget book. Some of this will be pretty quick, but just to help you in your review of the budget. So the first thing that pops up if someone goes online to look at the budget will be the transmittal letter. And this is, again, a high-level overview of what is in this budget, what some of the economic and social challenges are that we're facing as we put together this budget. As you've probably seen in prior years, the general fund, we are projecting or budgeting a $3.9 million budget deficit. Again, that is combined with a lot of those inflationary factors. We've added 4 positions in the budget, 2 of which we've already discussed at prior council meetings. One of them is a mandatory position through municipal court, and then another one is one that we anticipate with some of our increasing population on the neighborhood code inspector side. So that is contributing to it, and I've mentioned some of the professional services and supplies that have gone up. And again, this is the first year that we felt comfortable moving that sales tax base, but that's been our primary revenue driver for the city. And the introduction transmittal letter covers a lot of that. There's also some background history of the city, organization chart so that you can see how our personnel is distributed throughout the city. And then the budget overview is really what gets into the numbers and more of a mid-level summary of what's going on. So overall, we've increased the budget this year by about $6 million. A lot of that is project-driven. You'll see on the gaming fund side it has gone up, and some of our other funds, it's some capital expenses that have increased. And in some, on some of our pass-through, we've seen some of those economic effects take place in the One North Fund, for example. We've seen that base grow larger, and so we will be passing through more funds to that tax increment financing fund. On the personnel side, we have added 6 positions. 4 in the general fund, 2 on the water side to just help with some of the transition that we're going through there, and just re-looking at our operations, what makes sense for each department. Parks has also looked at some position adds as they navigate their new sales tax. One of the things, we talk a lot about the general fund, but Mike mentioned some of the uncertainty that we're facing, so one of the big ones, and I'm going to transition to one of the new pieces of our budget, and that is long-range financial planning. We have a lot of uncertainty in a number of funds. As we mentioned, the stormwater, water, and wastewater master plans. Those are all going to come with a number of projects that, we can anticipate that there's going to be some increases there, and it will have an effect on rates, and looking more into, do we do debt financing, which is something that we have not done in the city, but that may be advantageous for us to start looking at. So we have taken a longer-term look at the budget, and as we've done that, it has created that uncertainty. The biggest one is probably in the transportation fund. We have the RFP out for transportation services right now. In that fund particularly, we still have a transfer for transportation from the gaming fund, but, we'll have to see what that RFP comes back with and what decisions need to be made for transportation going forward to keep that fund healthy. One of the things that you'll see that is also newer is on the capital improvement side. So we present that in two different forms. We have the one-year plan, which shows everything that is in the current proposed budget, and you can go through, see breakdowns by funding source, by department, and then summaries for each of the projects by department and division. And so you can click on each one of these if you so choose, and get more background. So these are the project sheets that the departments develop, and now that is something that's available for you to review. When we talk about the longer-term outlook, we've changed from a 5-year capital planning outlook to a 10-year capital planning outlook to just really try and make sure that we're prepared when those projects, equipment, et cetera, come forward, and we have a funding plan in place to make sure that we're able to do those. And so that's been a change with this budget, and it still overall looks familiar, except it goes from 5 to 10. And it's very similar to the one-year outlook too, and where you can see the different funding requests by department, and again, go through and look at those individual project sheets. So a lot of the things that you'll see in the 6 to 10 years are not as well developed. They're just ideas that we think this is coming. And we want to make sure that we've at least earmarked something for that. What you'll see on August 15th when we do the operating and capital discussion is we'll be walking through these department pages on here, and that just gives a little bit more in-depth look at what has changed in each individual department. It has revenue summaries for the different fund pages, and a breakdown of how that department budget is put together. So this is a lot of what you'll see when we talk about the budget on the 15th, is we'll be going through these pages. The fund summaries offer more of a high level, also looks at individual fund balance for each of the major funds in the city. And you can see here, as we're developing more of a history, using this being our 3rd year using ClearGov, it adds everything from prior years, which has been really helpful for the discussions as well, especially as we look longer term. But you can see I've got Parks up here. I think they discussed their budget last Thursday. You'll see, as Mike mentioned, this is a bridge year for them, so we still have a lot of the transfers from the gaming fund and some of the general fund support still in this budget as they navigate how they're going to utilize that sales tax. But we anticipate in future years that that is something that would provide some relief to both the general and the gaming fund long term. So that is an overview. I'm going to jump back to the transmittal letter and talk about some of our next steps, and specifically one of the newer items that we have, and that is the bounce and balance. We've tried a number of different open house type things to just get engagement on the budget. This is one that we were looking at for all ages to come out Mackin Park, close to the Parks Admin Building. There will be a bounce house, snow cones, I think coffee as well. It will be an opportunity for folks to just come out, give their kids or themselves, I guess, an opportunity to go out and have some fun on the bounce house, and then talk to directors, talk to staff, and ask questions about the budget. We'll gather all those and get that feedback back to you, and then we'll jump into, on the 15th, more of our traditional budget discussion with the operating and capital. As always, there will be questions throughout. We'll work through those. As changes come up, we will have the budget that will be updated, that will show, if someone wants to add something to the budget, you'll be able to go in and see that online in the proposed budget. Tentatively scheduled September 5th for budget adoption. That could be either on the 5th or the 19th, and then with the change of Clay County becoming a charter county, our property tax discussion and levy discussion moves from August to September. So we have a mandate that we have to get the property tax levy passed by October 1st and sent back into the county. So that will be part of our budget discussion. We've budgeted that revenue flat for now, but that will probably be a change as we adopt the budget that will come through. So, we're really looking forward to the conversation, different types of conversation. Any questions that come up, we are here and ready to answer them and make sure that you're getting the information you need as you review this budget.
Saving all the questions for later. Oh, man, we're going to start now. Here we go. Councilmember Smith. I thought that was awfully quiet. to
Yeah,
start.
just a quick one. My first few years on the council, we had like 3 or even 4 budget work sessions. It looks like we've got one scheduled for this time around. Is it just going to be a 5-6
That's-
hour ordeal, or what are you looking at?
Well, what we've kind of changed on that is instead of, I think a lot of times going line item by line item, what we've asked departments to do is just highlight your top 3 to 5 things that you think are important in this budget. And I've done that in previous places. It seems to still get a lot of the information that you want to know out there. But, that September 5th, if there's still unanswered questions after that, we can reserve that time for this. This one, for the first time, does not include a special work session on the budget. And we looked at that and made sure we were comfortable with that.
Appreciate
And
that.
part of the goal is we've looked at a couple different things, especially since I became mayor, try to look at different processes on all these things and streamline these where possible and also find ways to engage with people in
Right,
that
and
as well without having 17 sessions.
Yeah.
And the hope is also August 1st, the balance, or balance and balance is, still going around to the department heads' tables and having that discussion with them, having that opportunity as well. But as Nick said, any questions, if you send us a question about the budget, we'll answer it, but we're going to answer it to everybody, because some of you might have the same question, but that way we'll have that compiled and keep that updated.
Councilmember Saper.
First off, I want to say thank you to the city staff for putting together this presentation. I encourage all residents to take a look at it and get your questions to your city council member and/or appear at the Bounce and Balance at Mackin Park. Do both. There is a lot of questions that people have that they really don't know how to frame the question. And if you bring your concerns to your council members or to city staff at the Mackin Park event, we can maybe try to get those into a form that is clear to you and move forward. It's not written in stone. It's written in ink that can be changed and adapted. So please get to us with your concerns.
And we probably need a couple days to digest ourselves as well. But yes, please reach out and take advantage of some of these opportunities coming up. With that, done. We will move on to number 8, golf carts. I'll introduce this topic. So we've, not all of you on council at the time, but many of you were, I believe, last time we discussed golf carts. And so we kind of came up with some rules after some discussion on golf carts previously. But really what I wanted to do before I had staff, let me roll back a little bit. So to change anything and allow golf carts would require an ordinance change. And so, or require a code change, require an ordinance. And so before I had staff go down that road of spending the time and determining where everything should be changed in the code and preparing an ordinance, I just wanted to run by with council pretty quick and see if council had any interest in pursuing any golf cart policy at this point anymore. Councilmember Saper.
Yes, I would like to pursue this. I think it's an option that probably not many would take advantage of, but some would. And it's part of our general transportation and mobility program in the city. Includes bicycles, cars, trucks, buses. And there are many people, especially maybe some of the older among us, who could really use this in a way that is not available to others. And again, it's a matter of mobility for people of any age. And I would like to pursue this in a way that makes it practical. In the past, maybe we've tried to load too many requirements. Golf carts don't have to be mini cars. They can be limited to hours, such as only during daylight, sunrise to dusk. And that would eliminate some of the onus of having to have headlights, things like that. The other issue is, it sort of begs the question about other forms of transportation. Bicycles are essentially unregulated. As far as I can remember, at least, the only requirement we have for bicycles is that they not be on sidewalks. There's no registration, no requirement that they have headlights or taillights or anything like that. Walking around at night, have had bicycles coming down the street. No headlights, no reflectors on the back, just moving along at sometimes almost the speed limit. Some people can really ride fast.
All right. We're diverging from golf carts.
Yes, we're diverging from
Okay.
golf carts. But I'd like to pursue this further.
Like to pursue. Then let me start off with you then. Would you like to make a motion directing staff to bring back an ordinance related to golf carts? And
So
then we'll
moved.
get this to a vote. There we go. Did you get that, Crystal? I know that goes really. Okay. She got, okay, further discussion. We'll keep going. Any council members have any further discussion on golf carts at this time? If not, then we will take a vote. Oh, please, go ahead. Council member.
At first, I guess I wasn't sure whether I was really in favor of them or not. I understand the safety concerns. Because of the speed limit, they go a lot slower and actually being in with the regular flow of traffic. But on the other hand, I don't see if we could make sure that we do have regulations. I would think if we could have them registered. I think they would need to have working lights, headlights, taillights. Regulations like you would have to be a licensed driver, 16 and over, but you would have to have a current license. They could not cross over or be on any of the major highways. One thing that I would like to add, I think if we could restrict them to, I don't know if this would be a popular idea or not, but restrict them to north of Armour Road. I think once you get south of Armour Road, you get into a lot of the industrial area. You have a lot of semis going through there. I just don't think that they would mix. I think you're asking for a problem that way, but I think if you would keep them in the residential area, off the major roads or highways that have a lower speed limit, I think I wouldn't have a problem with it.
I think that was one discussed last time. Yeah, we'd previously discussed skateboards kind of in the same light, but then through that process decided to limit it onto streets with certain, I don't know, mile per hour. So I see in our general rules here, we already have 25 mile per hour limit or lower. But yeah, no, you can still always vote yes on this to bring the ordinance back and then vote no on the ordinance later as well. If you don't like something within the specific policy. This would be more to have just some sort of the policy based on the discussion we've had so far drafted up by staff. Because we have a general policy that we've already discussed previously. And the YouTube was in the agenda packet, I believe, as well as a number of rules that we previously considered. Further council, was there a second on that?
She had a
Second.
comment.
There was a second. Okay, further council member comments. No, she didn't. Okay, you got one now. Councilmember Smith.
So just a couple thoughts. I'm not certain what the level of demand is at this point. I've heard from a few people around town that it would be nice to be able to, take a golf cart to dinner, go downtown, or, ride over to, say, Chicken and Pickle. But as it stands, most of that wouldn't be allowed. So the use case seems quite limited if we're going 25 miles an hour or lower streets, which I agree with. You're essentially riding them from one house to another. I don't know what the demand for that is. As far as taking out, as Councilmember Saper mentioned, taking away some of the safety requirements, seat belts, et cetera, I know that they're pretty rudimentary vehicles typically, but I would bristle at taking away safety features. And then the other part, and it's a pretty common point that's been made, and I appreciate the comments you had tonight, reaching out and doing the legwork to contact other chiefs of police. North Kansas City is a little bit different than the places that you named, Parkville, Liberty, didn't get the third one, and then the Country Club, is in that we're on a grid system. So the point that Chief Freeman made last time we brought this up was in places where streets wind and there are cul-de-sacs and different traffic measures or traffic calming measures, it's less likely you're going to have a collision at a perpendicular intersection. And here, most of our intersections are 90 degrees, which would, suggest more dangerous conditions for crashes. All that to say, I'd be open to hearing what an ordinance looked like. I'm generally very cautious about this one.
There you go. Now, kind of, sort of. Councilmember Stokes, go ahead.
Yeah, I also am open to it. I grew up with golf carts. I loved them. My husband would spend every day on the golf course if I allowed it. We love golf carts, but I was very open to the idea until I listened to the previous conversation where Chief Freeman mentioned how our city is set up a little different, and it did make me a little more nervous and cautious. I also am open to listening to an ordinance of it and discussing it, but I am a little nervous about how our city is set up a little different.
Further councilmember comments at the time? Please keep
Throw
going.
out my 2 cents here, but I don't really see any major downsides to allowing golf carts. I'm not sure they necessarily get a ton of use, but that being said, wouldn't be opposed to opening it up and seeing what happens. I would like to see it done in a safe manner with safety, requirements, lights, and the stuff we've discussed. And I also like the idea of limiting it to secondary streets, essentially. I was looking at regulations for other cities, and I know Belton is not comparable to North Kansas City, Missouri. But one thing I saw in their code I did like that might help a little bit with the 90-degree intersections was to require a flag on the top of the golf carts of a certain height and size to just increase visibility from a distance. So just throwing that out.
I'm going to make you wear one of those when you walk, too. Okay. Further councilmember comments? Please, go ahead.
Are we still waiting on a second?
No, we have a second now,
Oh, we had
which
that
was-
already? Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
Councilmember,
All right,
Fitzgerald,
I'll just
please.
say, I agree. I was concerned, same. I was thinking like, okay, what's the big deal? And then I listened to the previous discussion, and yes, it did make me stop and think, but I agree. I'm open to discussing it.
Perfect. Then we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item, number 9, Link City Operations and Maintenance Agreement. Mike.
Give a brief kind of history for some of you that don't know about Link City. So our fiber optic network is called Link City. It has a distinction of being the first municipally owned network in the state of Missouri, back when it was thought of, designed, and constructed. Construction began in 2005. First customers were hooked up in 2006. It as you all know, provides point-to-point fiber service to residents and businesses, also in tiered packages. So city operated from that time until 2014, September of 14. City entered into an operations and maintenance agreement with Knockix LLC, formerly Data Shack, for a term of 10 years. They're located on Swift here in North Kansas City. So, but the city does retain ownership of the network. So I will little more of the history. In February of 2019, agreement, there was a restated agreement to operate and maintain Leak City in line with, or at the same time as a settlement agreement. There were some disputes, various disputes that were settled. But we also had the restated agreement that, for the main part, switched from keeping track of personnel costs and to a management fee for that NOCIX expenses. We don't pay the management fee out, but it's part of their expense when we review it, and so it's counted against that.
Can you repeat that? I'm not sure I understood.
So in 19, with the restated agreement, it established a maintenance fee.
Yep.
Or management fee. We don't actually give them a check for the management fee, but when they do their financials and the audit at the end of the year, it shows up as an expense.
And then we split the difference of whatever the deficit or surplus is?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we allow them to expense that and show it. And I might add, Brooks Brown is here with NOCIX. Brooks, if
Maybe I just have a question on, oh, never mind. I'll wait till you're finished here
okay.
with your ultimate.
So part of the agreement, as I said, it's a 10-year term. The restated agreement did not reset that term at all. So part of the agreement is if the agreement is to be terminated, or it has to be, notice has to be provided 1 year prior, or at least 1 year prior to the termination of the agreement, which is September 7th of 2024. So we're coming up on 1 year. So I wanted to get this in front of you to talk about this. The renewal option currently is if we don't give notice, then it automatically renews for a year, and it keeps doing that until notice is given by either party. I mean, just they could also say, hey, we're done. We're giving you a year's notice. But that's part of the agreement. Now, as we've discussed before, when NOCIX has come to present, they get the free residential service as part of this. Includes churches, schools. They can, request the service, and it does include apartment complexes unless permission can't be obtained by the owner of the complex, which is, as I understand, some of the difficulty with the older apartments are the cost the owner would incur. It's not setting the apartments up for the infrastructure to be able to get it to each apartment. But that is part of the agreement. Also, part of the agreement, NOCIX is responsible for operating, maintaining, and repairing the network and equipment. There is a portion or a section that the city shares in cost of new construction over $5,000, and this is any new construction other than free gigabyte services I mentioned previously. And then, as Councilmember Smith alluded to or mentioned, there's a section that we share 50-50 any surplus or shortfall. Over the life of the agreement, from the data I could find, the average annual payment for a shortfall from the city to NOCIX has been $22,411 every year. So I will add the first 2 quarters of this year that they are showing a surplus of approximately $125,000. But as mentioned earlier, neither the settlement agreement nor the restated agreement changed the ending date. So tonight is kind of what does the council want to do?
Yeah.
Do we?
I see at the end it contemplates NOCIX doing or proposing possibly an amendment for a
Correct.
3-year renewal period. But seeing the negative every year, this is a question for NOCIX, I guess. Every year there's a shortfall. What is your incentive to continue this contract anyways? I mean, there has to be some incentive because it's obviously not money if there's a negative every year.
$636,000 from us.
Is what what we're paying?
Yeah, I mean, that's the 53,000 a month, gets us to a $22,000 shortfall. That's 636,000 base annually from us as part of that
Well,
baked-in calculation, right? Am I
Right,
understanding?
we don't actually send a check for the management fee, but
Correct.
it's expense.
But it's
They show it as
money-
an expense, so,
Right.
right.
Net number is offset by that essentially.
Yeah.
Is that
Right.
right?
So it's, I mean,
So
it's,
the overall net is on a positive
it's
side.
positive 600 and some odd K a year for the management.
There's your incentive.
At
Okay.
least that's my understanding of it. I might be.
He didn't seem to disagree there. Okay. Well, if you want to, yeah, sorry. If you're going to say something that way, everyone at home can hear you too.
Yeah, the management fee came as a result of us taking over, and that was essentially what the previous pay scale or
Yeah.
pay grade was operating at. So we just took those numbers, and instead of calling it employee compensation, we just called it a management fee.
Okay. No, thanks for clarifying. That makes sense now. And something else you mentioned, and that I'm going to talk to you about the other day. So the network and the equipment, you are managing the network and equipment, or the city still owns the network and equipment?
Yes.
We still
Or
own,
combo of both.
We still own the network.
own the network.
The equipment, I think most of it has been replaced.
Yeah, most of all the equipment in the huts have been replaced. You all own that equipment. It has been paid for out of the operations, out of the income.
Got it. Okay. Perfect. Councilmember Smith.
So, item 8, the shared new construction costs. Any project over $5,000 other than free gigabit service costs, what are we looking at there? What's an example of one of those?
Well, I think that, and Tom, you can help if you recall, but I think we put that in there where a situation would come up where if someone wanted service and it was going to cost $50,000, rather than us just making that decision, we'd have to come back, bring that before council. Everyone would have to agree, okay, yeah, let's spend that money for that.
When you say someone, I mean, this is a hypothetical, but when you say someone, who would that someone be? Like a business or a?
Yeah, it could be a business customer is mainly where we see that.
And they wouldn't be the ones paying for it? It would be a shared between the city and Knox?
It could, but again, for instance, Sonic, as I'm sitting here thinking, Sonic would be an example where it was going to cost more than $5,000 to deliver service to them.
Okay.
The downside for us is, okay, well, there's say it's a $5,000 capital cost or a $6,000 capital cost. We come before council and we all agree to do it, but that tier rate that they want to pay may only be $75 a month.
Not going to recoup.
So you can't really recoup that, especially now that we're in our 9th year. There's no way you're going to recoup that.
Okay. I think I get it. Because none of us, as pointed out, none of us were party to even discussions on this contract when it first came around. So I'm trying to wrap my head around that piece of it. It seems like, and maybe I'd have a misunderstanding of how that would work, is if Sonic, for example, wanted this internet service, that they would come to the city for a permit, but they would bear the cost of bringing it to their front door rather than a shared between.
That is how we have been presenting it to those types of customers.
Okay, so that we haven't really used Section 8? Okay, it's more hypothetical, I understand. Then the free residential internet service, so it talks about, Section 13A here, free gigabit service costs shall be borne entirely by Knox. Help me understand that one. So is that just the delivery of the service, or is it the running of the lines to facilitate that?
No, that is the delivery of the service.
Okay, so nothing to do, it says Knox costs new construction. So I guess I'm a little confused where, who bears the cost? Or what does that even cover? And it seems beyond like service delivery, this is like labeled new construction.
Sure, if there was a residence that hadn't been hit previously, and it would cost $500 to deliver that service, that would be borne by the customer.
Okay. So just trying to think through if there was some new residential homes constructed that would qualify for the free, or even apartments that go up that would qualify for free gigabit as a resident, does that mean that Knox is responsible? Because I don't want to be unfair to you in this. Would that be responsible? Would Knox be responsible for bringing the fiber to the door of those new buildings?
No.
Okay.
No.
But if it was a house, would they?
For Gallery Loft, for instance, that was a case in point.
Right.
Where they had to extend the network, the fiber infrastructure itself, from Howell, no, that's Iron and Armor, over there to them, and they had to bear that cost.
Okay. So I guess I'm trying to understand what qualifies as new construction under that one. Maybe that'd be a Tom or a Mike.
Sorry, question kind of along those lines, and I don't know from the history, but I would ask with running the fiber along Diamond Parkway when it was constructed, I would guess the city paid for that?
Yes.
For that, yeah. Because there wasn't a specific place it was going to, but we were making it available as part of the network.
Okay, but once that place exists,
Then,
per the contract, I'm just trying to work my way, because Gallery Lofts is a good example of where we kind of hit the impasse. And if it was an existing structure, it seems maybe this contract says Knox bears the cost, which can be a discussion point for a new contract, if that's fair or accurate. I think that's all I had right now.
Councilmember Fitzgerald.
I just wanted to go back to the management fees and make sure I was understanding the dollar amount on those, especially with the new or the amended contract, I guess. So it sounds like it was essentially, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but essentially like a minimum of $636,000 a year in management fees post 2019.
It was the same all the way through the contract, and it was that 53,000 or whatever that was initially per month, which was essentially the payroll that Link City operated with the previous year that we took it over.
Okay, so more or less 53,000 a month for the duration.
We
so-
just took the number of the existing payroll and applied it to us.
I think
Okay.
it can increase based on the CPI.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, we had, I don't know how many staff we had when we operated Link City. But it
About
was,
7.
it was to offset that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess I calculated somewhere in the nature of $6.5 million over the 10-year term for that cost there, but that's mostly personnel then, is what I'm understanding. Okay. And then more, I think the city staff, but one other question is in section 10 of the amended agreement, it mentions a financial statement audit of the Link City operations. I've only been here about a year, but hadn't seen that yet. I was just curious, seeing the most up-to-date numbers might be helpful for getting some perspective here. I'm not sure what the fiscal year is and what the most recent version we would have is.
2022.
Okay. Just calendar year then.
I gotta think, Nick, is that? I think it's in line with our.
It's your all's fiscal year.
It's in line with our fiscal.
Oh,
year.
okay, gotcha. I'm following then. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Councilmember Smith.
So I do appreciate, we've discussed, you guys do a lot for the school. You bring them some, I forget the speed of the connection there, but it's quite high.
Yeah, they actually get about 100 gig.
100 gig.
Yeah, is what we hand off.
That's remarkable.
They don't use all of that, obviously, but
Sure.
it's available.
Okay. So I'm curious as well. I got a long agreement here. I'll admit I haven't gotten top to bottom on it. Residents, schools, churches, complimentary internet, up to a gig speed. Schools get faster. Businesses pay for the internet. What is the arrangement for Knox? Does Knox also pay whatever the going rate is for internet, or is that part of the deal that rolls it in complimentary for you guys?
It's our internet
Okay.
that we are giving to you all, not vice versa.
Okay.
So we pay for our bandwidth
in
On
our
the network.
business. In our business.
Okay.
And then we provide that bandwidth in the network.
I think that went over my head. Yeah, I need to learn more about internet infrastructure.
We're gonna need you to bring an image next time.
If I could, since in looking around, no one was here when this was first done, and believe it or not, I was the one designated for the city to be over getting fiber optics in the city, as Brooks will remember. One thing you need to know, a very important part of what Brooks was just talking about, when we originally built it and were operating it, a huge cost to operating it, a huge cost was the cost we were paying for bandwidth, okay? It goes across the Missouri, the Heart of America Bridge, as well as across the old ASB Bridge, and on the northeast corner on the south side, excuse me, not northeast, on the southeast corner of the Heart of America Bridge, just a little to the east, there's a building down there. It used to be operated by, it was owned by Sprint, and we actually had equipment in there, and that's who we bought our bandwidth from. It was a huge cost to us. And they buy so much bandwidth, that's why, Jesse, to make it clear, that's why they're not paying. They're putting all of the bandwidth in the network that we used to pay for, and it was a large amount of money. It was like crazy what they were charging us.
Yeah, and the network at the time was operating on less than a gigabit of bandwidth. So there wasn't a lot of robustness in the network down here.
And, you know, at some stage, if we'd like, I'd be glad to give you some overall information
Sure.
about how we got where we got.
Yeah,
But
be good.
we've been up and down a lot of hills along the way, and including when when the city decided the cost of operating it with employees and everything. It was well operated, don't get me wrong, and well maintained. In fact, it was so well operated and so well maintained, the person that designed it for our network was hired by Google Fiber nationally to be over all of their national stuff, John Toccolino. And when they came to Kansas City, just so you know, they originally came to Kansas City, Kansas. They came and met with us, okay, on how we did it, what we did. And we have an active system. They don't. Our system is like the Mercedes-Benz of systems, okay, with the equipment and the way it's operated. So you got to factor in all of that. We've done things for the city of Kansas City that most people here don't know. Their police are connected into the big network because of us, right, Brooks?
As well as Gladstone, Liberty, and Clay County.
Okay?
Perfect.
And so we do, my point is, I know this isn't really the time or the place, but we've done a lot of things with what we have, and it's been deemed by prior councils to be part of our essential infrastructure, just like water and sewer, et cetera, that this city has. And most cities do not have this. And I think Aaron Wendell, your partner or whatever in this,
Yeah.
and who's kind of on the tech side really heavily, he said, you will not find any faster bandwidth in any city anywhere on the planet than you will here.
That's
Now,
a true statement.
It's wild.
All right, so
so-
the question tonight is, would you like them to bring back, is this the contract? Is this, I mean, unvetted contract? Is this a vetted contract? What are we seeing here?
It's the current restated contract from 2019.
Semi-vetted, there's some things have changed.
This
Okay.
one we're currently under right now.
So we would generally, oh, I thought that there's some extension dates. Okay, never mind. That's the exact contract we have now. Okay, so we'd need some sort of new contract as well. Okay, so the direction I guess would be, do we want to, what's the alternative? We got to an RFP. right? There's the alternative, in which it sounds like then would have to prop up a lot of our own assets as well for that to even be manageable or doable. Is it practical? Is it even possible at this point?
To get an RFP out?
Well, we can get an RP out, but
Right.
for us to take back over a system like this,
Take it back over?
Yeah. Take it back over. I mean, or give it to someone else.
I mean, anything's possible, yeah. One of the,
I mean,
but.
feasibly,
but
I'll
it-
say.
But the handover, you know,
Yeah.
we'd get an RFP out, I would guess, it would take, I mean, we're looking at, you know, by time we get it out, meet with people, consider proposals, we're probably talking a couple months at least. Because we gotta write it too.
So
So
I'm
there's
just trying to lay
also-
out the alternatives. Those are the alternatives. Though.
Right,
It's
and I'm
either put out an
thinking-
RFP,
And I'm
find a
thinking
way
the
to take it back
handoff.
in, or renew this contract.
I'm thinking.
What
a
is council's
handoff.
desires to question, Councilmember Smith?
If it were to go to someone else, there would be a.
Oh, there'll be a
hand it off.
handoff period.
Yeah, that's.
So I appreciate the info, and I honestly, having lived here for the last decade, I have no qualms with how the network's been run. The service has been incredible. I am not by any means advocating that we, oust Knox by any means. Like, you guys have been great partners in the community. I just have no idea what alternatives even look like. We haven't. I didn't even live here when the first contract was negotiated, I don't think, or maybe I just moved here. So I'm not sure what is and isn't on the table. I would like to understand a little more. It's hard to make decisions when I don't fully understand the difference between bandwidth and internet. Like, I feel I usually understand tech pretty well, but this one has me spinning. So what's the notice required period it auto renews for a year if notice isn't given by when?
By September 7th of 2023 at 11:59 PM. That's.
All right, yeah.
What's in there. Yeah.
So it would just auto renew if we don't, and so we've got either auto renew, cancel an RFP, or go for a 3-year. Is that what we're looking at as our three options?
Knox proposed a 3-year. And that was based on, as I understood, we're not sure what's happening in the town in the next 3 years. I mean, there's some unknowns right now that could change.
Yeah, we sat down, visited it. We've got things on our plate. You seem to have things on your plate. We really haven't spent any time up to this point of assessing what would be the best thing to do with it. So we're kind of up to a point. We can kick the can down the road a year, and then we'll be right back here again. So in discussion with Mike, hey, maybe 3 years is a better thing. And I'd like to mention that, the free internet and the free services that we provide were never negotiated as part of the contract. We put that on the table. So my daughter was at North Kansas City High School, and they all had new MacBooks, and they didn't have any bandwidth to run them. The school district was operating on about 250 megabits. When I reached out to Eric at the time, he said, hey, we've got 250 megabits more net connection that we're trying to operate with. So that's what kind of led us down this path, aside from the city bleeding money at, what, Tom, $250,000 a year or something? Yeah. So, it was, we were here. It was an opportunity to add value to. So, it would be great if we could all get on the same page and decide what you want to do with it, what would be the best thing.
So
We have limited meetings to decide.
Yeah,
that as well.
that's the thing. Like, we're butting up against it. So I agree. This is absolutely. I mean, this is akin to water and sewer. Like, this is critical infrastructure. And as a resident of North Kansas City, I'm extremely grateful for the free gigabit internet, and I don't want that to go away. I would like to, at some point be able to have a discussion about the very fine points of the contract. But overall, I think this is a good thing, net to the residents. And I'd be open to a 3-year. So at some point before we're within a month, we could have a real conversation about, what do we look at going forward long term. So I'd be open to a 3-year.
you kind of started a little bit on a different path, I thought there. You know, is there some desire to understand other options and what that may look like, or just to continue on to
I think
looking at bullet points on this deal?
Yeah, given what's going on with what you guys are working on at your location and what we're working on in the city, I think given 3 years to breathe and look at this, and we can have discussions along the way. You know, we lock it in for 3 years. We can also talk about it as we go. We're all co-located in North Kansas City. We can get together, and this gives time to really get a good contract in place going forward for the long term.
Perfect. Further council member comments? All right. Then you want to take a motion and vote on, you want to motion that away there?
Yep.
And then we'll get a second and call on him.
Yep. All right, I'll move that we bring back a 3-year extension.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there we go. Councilmember Fitzgerald.
I'd be in support of the 3-year extension too, but just one thought I had is, and I don't know the first thing about running this network, so this may be the reason why, but just at face value, that management fee personnel cost piece struck me as kind of high. Under the agreement here, if I'm reading this correctly, it sounds like records should be available to the city of Link City specific, revenue and expenses. I didn't know if we'd have time to maybe get a quick look at those and see that the cost we're paying is comparable to the actual cost before extending the deal.
Be great.
So we have 3 scheduled meetings. How fast do you think you can have that back for round 1?
Well, we get their quarterly financials. I mean, are you talking financial statements or?
Yeah,
or
just
even-
financial records.
Yeah.
I guess if it's essentially personnel costs we're covering, personnel costs specific to the Link City operations.
You're wanting what's referred to in here as the
Management fee.
audit or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if
Like
there's
audited
underlying records also available, that might be more helpful, but at least just some kind of information. I'm a numbers guy, I like to see that stuff.
You just don't want
before
the-
making
Absolutely.
decisions, so
You just don't want
that's
the
where I'm
end of
going.
month- the end of month net, basically.
Correct, yeah, just
Okay,
a
you
little
want the
bit more
expanded.
detail than
Okay.
that.
I would
Got
also
it.
like to see that.
Absolutely, I can send that out to everybody. I even have a spreadsheet that Eric Berlin started that goes all the way back, even, from the switch over, 18 to 19, so we can get all that out. Sure.
Fantastic. Further, Councilmember Alvarez.
I just had a question, so that I understand, with the time limited, we're going to go ahead and, we're talking about renewing the contract now? right?
This would not be an approval tonight. This
No.
would be, again, directing staff to bring back a contract to approve.
Okay.
Which, at the time, we could say no to that one, and if we have only a few weeks left, it would kick forward for a year. So it would
Yeah.
still leave options open if need be.
Yep, so this is just basically voting on essentially the drafting of the ordinance and the review of a contract that appears to be 3 years. There you go. Further councilmember comments? All in favor, please say yes.
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 All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
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 All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item number 14, approval of Chapter 100 bond documents related to Bloom NKC LLC, Bill number 7788, ordinance number 9585. Who's got this one? Who wants it? Anybody? Or we just want to, I can just approve it too. I mean, we have a presentation. Is there anything? Anybody? I'm getting antsy. Anthony? Mr. Lanning, I see you. You representing them as well here tonight? You're just here to field questions.
Yeah.
You're just here to field questions. Then we'll roll into, are there any council member questions on this item? And if we're ready to
First
vote for it,
reading.
we'll make a motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
An ordinance authorizing the city of North Kansas City, Missouri to issue its taxable industrial development revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $21,550,000 and authorizing and approving documents and certain actions in connection therewith.
I move that bill number 7788 be passed as ordinance number, be placed on final reading and passed as ordinance 9585.
I think I second that one.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez,
Yes.
Councilmember Stokes?
Yep.
Councilmember Todd?
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing the city of North Kansas City, Missouri to issue its taxable industrial development revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $21,550,000 and authorizing and approving documents and certain actions in connection therewith.
There we go. Number 15, an ordinance amending City Code 9.16.040, dealing with violations of orders of protection, both ex parte and full orders of protection, Bill number 7789, ordinance number 9586. And who is my familiar party on this one? I saw your finger went another way. Your
He
finger,
was raising-
everyone's pointing at you.
No, that's fine. I'm going to
I mean,
handle it.
you have a very brief.
He
You
had
have a one-liner
He
here?
had a point. I don't know what he.
He's very excited to talk.
Councilmember Saper.
I'm not excited to talk, but I do have a question. On the microphone as well. Question I have is, why was ex parte not put in the original ordinance? Was there a reason?
Yeah, no city around put them in their original ordinance, and it wasn't until it became a problem when someone raised it one time a few years ago, and it had never been a problem here in our city until just a few weeks ago.
Okay.
That's the reason. But we did not have language for what would be a temporary, an ex parte order. You mean someone shows up in front of the judge, the other side's not there, not represented, haven't been given notice, but you want to protect them to begin with, and they do, it's like a temporary restraining order in a civil matter, okay? And so that's what this is all about, adding that one portion so that if someone violates the ex parte order, the short-term one, okay, they can be brought here in front of the court and they can be prosecuted. And as the chief looks like he'd like to say a word, and at the end of the day, that was the first thing I did. Kevin knows, I went over and talked to him about it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Just to tag on to what Mr. Barzee said is our ordinance is solid. It says orders of protection. What has happened is an attorney, and no offense to the attorneys in the room, has found a technicality, a glitch in the system.
They mostly left.
Trying to delineate between a full order of protection and a temporary order of protection. They're both orders of protection. This just writes it out clearly in our language that says we can prosecute both cleanly and fairly.
Councilmember Smith.
So I absolutely support getting people the protection they need. I'm curious, because I don't understand like the ex parte piece exactly, but as you explained it, the person's not here, they don't necessarily even know that they've been restrained. How then, what would we go about? Like, so there's a restraining order placed, they don't know it, and then they show up, now they're breaking the law? Or how does that work?
They got to get notice of it.
Okay, so
Okay,
they've been given
They
notice.
will have to get notice of it, but a lot of times they're not served with something, the paperwork, when the person requesting the ex parte goes to court and they get something and they do it, usually it's for like 15 days is all.
Right.
And they have to have the hearing to give the other party the opportunity, but in the meantime, you want to protect somebody on the very short term. And so you balance someone having the right for, due process in the court, okay, against protecting someone on the short term. But that's why they are very short term. And like I say, I think it's usually around 15 days is the maximum that they will be. And then they get someone served and they have the right for a hearing, and they'll get a hearing if they want one. And like the chief said, it's the temporary and the full, and our ordinance did say orders of protection. The problem where it was a little bit, it then goes on to make mention of the full order of protection, and it never made any mention of the ex parte order of protection. And once the ordinance distinguished the two, we think that we need to have this in here to protect, to protect the city, so we can have, in fact, a hearing here at this level, if necessary, to keep someone from violating, hopefully, and if need be, penalize them. And that's why in this one, you'll notice the maximum, the judge has given the maximum penalty, and that's the maximum statutory penalty that a third-class city can make. okay? They can, $500 and up to 90 days in jail. That's the maximum a judge in a municipal court in a third-class city can do. Okay? So if you hear something different in Kansas City, they're not a third-class city.
Can I add something, just to help out a little bit? Just procedurally, when these occur, a domestic violence victim goes to the county to obtain an order of protection, right? So this always occurs at the county level. We don't issue orders of protection in North Kansas City. So they file for the order of protection. They're granted a temporary order of protection. That has to be served to the offending party in order to have a violation, okay? So once that has been served, violations occur. What we do now is every time the violation occurs, we build a case. And every case we build is a misdemeanor case leading up to a felony case. It takes us to 3 misdemeanor cases in order for the county to even consider filing a felony case of violation of the order of protection. So most of the time, we try to file all of these with the state court. But sometimes we need to file them at municipal court level just to get them filed and processed. Does that help you out on understanding the procedures?
Yeah, I mean, it's still a little bit murky. I'm just curious, so like the person gets the order, right? Then now they're under an order of protection. It still has to be served to the offending party, and that service can be very difficult sometimes. I've tried to serve folks before, and it just doesn't get there. Are they not technically protected if the service isn't successful?
The order isn't fully in effect until it has been served. So, correct.
Okay.
Now, what will happen is this 15-day period that Mr. Barzee talks about, we can go during that time frame and not have a service, still have the hearing, not have the offending party there, and the judge still can grant the full order.
Okay.
We still need the service to have the crime of violating the order.
Is there anything that can be done beyond this that would empower, say, they get the order, they could communicate that to the North Kansas City Police Department so you're at least aware? Because there's nothing. I mean, I just hate this for victims of domestic violence, right? They're technically unprotected for however long it takes to serve.
Well,
If-
that's
can
probably a
Can I
mistake.
answer that?
That's probably a misstatement. They're as protected as anyone in this room is protected. We're protected by all of the laws. Nobody has the right to come up and assault anyone in this room. Okay, they commit a crime.
Sure.
But what you want to do is get them to make sure it's well known that they stay away from somebody. And in order, you have to get them served to give them notice of what's going on. You know, we err on the side of caution here when the judge issues that initial order of that ex parte order. Remember, he issues, or she issues the order, and yes, it needs to go get served, but the order is, effective immediately, but it has to get served for us to be able to prosecute somebody. Okay? It's a matter of service is all it is. It's due process. And that's only fair if you think about it. Sometimes, people tend to make up things too.
Right, you're right.
And that's why
Tough
you
one.
need the hearing end of it. And that's why it takes place in a relatively short period of time. And that's why the ex parte order is so limited and narrow on how long it's in effect. Because if they don't get in to have to get the full order of protection, guess what? That one expires, it goes away. It's up to the petitioner to get the order and to get it in front of the judge to sign it. And so if it does, talk to the state, by the way. We're following state law on this is what we're doing, okay? We're not making up something that, is unique to North Kansas City.
Okay, in this came the prosecutor bringing this about, right? Because that's texting him now. I mean, it sounds like to him. Prosecute violations of orders of protection. And right now, folks with an ex parte order of protection have no protection in North Kansas City Court, as he believes.
So this is strengthening
This
it from the
is-
court standpoint.
They can prosecute, as he says, full orders of protection, but right now they can't prosecute ex parte orders of protection in municipal court,
First reading.
is the general. I'm just reading
Second.
what I'm reading. I don't know. First reading, is there a second? Was that a second that I hear? There is a second. All in order. All in order. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries.
An ordinance amending Chapter 9.16, offenses by or against public officers or government of Title IX, Public Peace, Morals, and Welfare of the Code of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri by repealing Section 9.16.040 of the City Code and enacting in lieu thereof a new Section 9.16.040, violation of an order of protection.
I move that bill number 7789 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9586.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Stokes?
Yes.
And Councilmember Todd.
Yes.
An ordinance amending Chapter 9.16, offenses by or against public officers or government of Title IX, Public Peace, Morals, and Welfare of the Code of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri by repealing Section 9.16.040 of the City Code and enacting in lieu thereof a new Section 9.16.040, violation of an order of protection.
Number 16, approving accounts due and payable by the city through July 14th, 2023. Bill number 7790, ordinance number 9587.
First reading.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through July 14th, 2023.
I move that bill number 7790 be placed on second and final reading and pass as ordinance number 9587.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Stokes?
Yes.
Councilmember Todd?
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through July 14th, 2023.
Staff comments.
Have the items of note and reports in the packet. I believe tonight the only staff comments, Chief Freeman.
Thank you. Good evening again, Mayor, members of council. As the mayor stated at the start of the meeting, tomorrow marks the one-year anniversary of Officer Daniel Vasquez being murdered, doing his job in the streets of North Kansas City. I just want to, again, I said it then, I want to say it now. I want to thank the mayor, the governing body, for your support of our department over the past year. It's been unwavering, city staff as well. There hasn't been a court appearance that our suspect has appeared on that either the mayor, the city administrator, or the assistant city administrator wasn't there. That means a lot to our people, and I appreciate that. As an update, we did get a trial date at our last court appearance. A trial date is set right now for September 29th, 2025. Yes. It's a ways out there. But we certainly want the prosecutors to handle the case right, effectively, and hopefully we don't have to have a second trial. So we want them to do it right. Just as a matter of remembrance, starting at midnight tonight, we'll have an image projected up on our building to honor Danny. It'll be up there for the 24 hours of the day tomorrow through midnight tomorrow night. You have to be either up late or up early to see it, because when the sunshine's shining, you can't see it very well. But again, thank you to everybody that has been there for us during this past year.
Further staff comments? Seeing none. Council member comments tonight, starting with Councilmember Saper.
Simply to repeat, the budget that we've been talking about earlier tonight, it's an important document. It's not written in stone, but it's a crucial guide and to what we expect and what we want to do. And any questions, please bring them forward to council members, city staff, or come to the event in Mackin Park. This is an important document because it really says what we want to do and and who we are as a city in many ways. Please come forward.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith.
So, Liz, thank you for pointing out the recycle question, because I had it written down myself. Can somebody check
yeah.
on that? Because it was in the court, like, I vividly remember him saying 2 times back at least that you have to take the lids off. In the newsletter, I noticed right on top, lids should be on. So I don't know who could check on that.
Guess and check.
Yeah, because if we're messing that up, they're essentially not at our whatever purity standard we need to be. Yeah, whatever that happens to be. If we could just check on that, we'll bring it forward in another newsletter or a postcard or something.
Special letter.
I would guess there'll be a comment at the next meeting at the very least to clarify. Just
Hopefully,
So it's to the public, you know.
Hopefully 100% of people are watching. That's what we need, 100% compliance.
I can tell you Liz Ryan will be back.
That's right. Liz is always watching. Second piece, Public Works continue to be a shining star. Limbs disappeared almost instantly, pretty much before the storm had even slowed down, which is wild. Alleyways are getting fixed in Northgate, which we really appreciate. And one thing, I've raised the question to staff, and I feel like there's just been an uptick in soliciting around the city. Lots of people coming to my door, offering security systems, offering bug repellents and solar, questionably licensed. Nobody has shown any sort of proof of that, and I don't know. I don't think anybody in this day and age wants somebody showing up at their door. So I don't know what we can do about that. I know it's probably a difficult enforcement mechanism, but I would be interested in figuring out a way to stop soliciting altogether outside of the uses that can't be stopped because of free speech and things like that. But I'd be interested in checking on that.
All right.
You talk about it.
There'll be more. To be continued. Good? All right. Councilmember Fitzgerald.
Just a big thank you to the city staff. I know putting the budget together takes a lot of work, and I think every department's involved with that, so just appreciation for that process.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Just want to reiterate what Liz Ryan said earlier about our public works. They did a great job. I actually saw some people out while it was still raining, while this last storm was still going on. So really appreciate them. Also, I think she's already left for Carol Broadway for her input and her research that she did regarding the golf carts. And I think that's about it. Thank you.
I also just want to say thank you to the departments and the employees of North Kansas City. This week, I got to attend the Parks Board meeting, and they do amazing things. Our Parks Department is amazing. They have great activities. They're just incredible, all the things they're doing. So shout out to them. And then Public Works, amazing. Thank you for cleaning up so quickly. And then on Saturday, we got to go eat snow cones with the police department, and my son has now determined that he wants to be a policeman that plays video games that drives a robot around. So thank you for that. And then lastly, this morning I got a document that was larger than my dissertation and more thorough and complete of the budget. So thank you for all your hard work. That's amazing. Appreciate all of our employees, and I'm so thankful to live in such a wonderful city.
How many robot operators do you need? We're going to have a lot of them in line here. Oh, there we go. Oh, we have robots too. Now they're going to one up here. Okay. There we go, Councilmember Todd.
My turn. Yes, I ditto to all of the wonderful things that were said about our city and people. We just love it here. I do have a couple of other items of note tonight that I just want to share. One, some people may have seen flyers going around, but there are some neighbors and your community members who are trying to put together sort of a North Kansas City studio night. Think kind of like a First Fridays walking around. If you or your children or you own a business here who maybe you do something as a hobby, or maybe maybe your kid makes jewelry or anything like that, and you just want to show off maybe some of your artwork or things like that in your driveway, in your garage, in your home. It's just something that's coming up that we'd love to just connect more of our community members, and that's open to, again, anyone who lives in the city or works in the city. There's some flyers going around, but you can also check that North Kansas City Neighbors Facebook page. My neighbor, Savannah Ramirez, made a post about it. There's a Facebook group going up about it. We're thinking like fall, September. So be on the lookout for that. Talk to your neighbors. Flyers went out and about in the neighborhood, but I think they ran out, so they're going to print some more. Then the other thing I want to just mention is I believe we all did receive an email from Ryan Toll about parking at the gallery lofts. I know very little about all of that and the whole Complete Streets project, but he did bring up this concern a couple of times via email because he couldn't be present. And I just want to, I guess, get that out there. He is concerned that the Complete Streets project essentially promised more parking for gallery lofts that now is not there. And so I didn't know if that was something that we could address or discuss, or if it has been discussed in the past already. But I wanted to bring that to note. And that's it.
Thank you. That takes it to me, which has no further comments. Which takes it to number 20, consideration of a request to hold and recess into an executive session as requested by the mayor to be held on this date on a personnel matter pursuant to Missouri Revised Statute 610-0213.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez,
Yes.
Councilmember Stokes, Councilmember Todd.
Yes.
She's done, right?
Yep, I'm done.
Okay, there we go. For everyone watching at home, the live stream will cut off on Channel 2 and YouTube, and there'll be no further public business or votes taken this evening. Thank you.